Breaking news! Things are getting tense in South Florida, and what I'm about to tell you may change your mind about the direction of the Miami Dolphins. With OTAs officially over and minicamp just around the corner, something is happening behind the scenes, something that could shake the very heart of the locker room. You may think this is just another offseason, but trust me, what's happening right now could determine whether this team has a shot at the Super Bowl. The silence around key players, the body language in practice, and even some subtle roster changes point to a much bigger story unfolding right under our noses. Grier, still clinging to his position despite years of questionable decisions. And if you think that's okay just because the season hasn't started yet, you need to see what I'm about to show you. But before we get started, hit the like button, but only if you've been following the Dolphins through their ups and downs. And if you've ever yelled at the TV during a Chris Grier press conference, leave a comment right now. Go Dolphins! We deserve better. Now for the truth they don't want you to hear. We just wrapped up the last day of OTAs, only 6 sessions total, and with that, our focus shifts to the mandatory minicamp scheduled for June 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now, OTAs are always a bit hush-hush since the media wasn't allowed in, but we still got some tasty tidbits that paint an intriguing picture heading into camp. First, let's talk about some personnel moves. The Dolphins signed defensive tackle Ben Still, solid depth at a position we absolutely need reinforcement. Depth at defensive tackle is always welcome, especially considering how the team allowed Christian Wilkins to walk, rather than pay him $25 million per year. That's a move still burning in the hearts of some fans. Another notable moment from the final OTA session, Jalen Wright was awarded the orange jersey, a symbolic recognition for outstanding performance. That's big. It's not just a pat on the back. It shows the coaching staff is watching, and Wright is making a strong case to climb the depth chart. And you better believe he's going to be featured heavily in the upcoming camp position battles, starting June 16th. We'll be talking about quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, you name it, breaking down who's fighting for a spot and who's got a shot at starting. Now let's talk about a subtle but telling change. Aaron Brewer has lost a noticeable amount of weight, while Jalen Waddle has bulked up significantly. Brewer is looking so lean, he might even get slotted in as a tight end if the coaches want to experiment. And Waddle? He looks like he's ready to run through some tackles this year. This kind of physical transformation isn't just off-season fluff. This suggests role changes, possibly a more physical style of play, especially from Waddle. And here's some fantastic news for out-of-market fans. The first preseason game against the Bears and the third one against the Jaguars will be aired live on NFL Network. That's huge for fans who don't have local access. Week 2, unfortunately, will require NFL Plus unless you're in the Miami or Detroit area. Either way, it's great to see some national exposure for the team during the preseason. But now, let's get into the real drama. Mandatory mini-camps are next week, and attendance isn't just encouraged, it's essential. Players who skip are looking at fines that could total over $100,000. But here's the loophole, they don't have to practice. As long as they show up, they avoid the financial hit, thanks to the new CBA. So now we're watching closely. Will Calais Campbell and Jalen Ramsey show up? That's the $1 million, or should I say, $105,000 question. Jalen Ramsey's situation is particularly complicated. Rumors are swirling about his relationship, or lack thereof, with Mike McDaniel and Grier. The tension has reached a point where the Dolphins were openly exploring trade options for him. If Ramsey doesn't show up next week, that speaks volumes. The guy's been paid a lot the last 2 years. Does he care about losing $100K? Maybe not. Maybe he's making a statement. And then there's Zach Sealer. This one really matters. Sealer's on a 3-year deal signed 2 years ago, and he's arguably outperformed it. Last season he had double-digit sacks, and the way things are trending, he could post 13 this year. That's why locking him down now makes so much sense. It would reduce his current cap hit and ensure we don't lose another cornerstone of our D-line like we did with Wilkins. But is Grier doing anything about it? Doesn't seem like it. It's that same old short-sightedness that's plagued this front office for years. If Sealer gets hurt or becomes too expensive to re-sign, we'll have no one to blame but the same people who are still inexplicably in charge. We need answers. Will Sealer show up and participate like he did last time, risking injury before his last extension? Will Ramsey appear just to avoid fines, or is he about to go full-on holdout? This team is at a crossroads, and these next few days are going to tell us a lot. But here's the real question for you all. What do you think is going to happen with Jalen Ramsey and Zach Sealer? Are we about to lose another key player due to front office negligence, or will someone finally step up and do the right thing? Let's pick it right back up. With mandatory minicamp looming, this isn't just another offseason checkpoint, it's a turning point. And the situation with Jalen Ramsey and Zach Sealer might set the tone for the entire 2025 campaign. Let's start with Ramsey. The reality is, if he doesn't show up, it's not about money. It's about principle. It's about a fractured relationship with McDaniel and Greer that's become too toxic to ignore. You don't get to the point where your name is floating around in trade talks unless something has seriously gone off the rails. And if he skips camp altogether, even with the threat of fines north of $100,000, it confirms one thing loud and clear: he's done with this organization. This is a guy who's still under contract and due a substantial amount of guaranteed money. He's been one of the league's top cornerbacks when healthy. And for all his injuries last year, when he was on the field, Ramsey still looked like a difference maker. So why would the Dolphins even entertain trading a talent like that? It goes back to the leadership, or lack thereof. It goes back to a front office led by Chris Greer, who continues to mismanage elite-level players and alienate locker room leaders. Think about the optics here. First Wilkins walks, now Ramsey might be out the door. What's next? And speaking of mismanagement, let's bring it back to Sealer. Here's a player who's exceeded expectations at every turn. He plays with relentless energy, contributes as both a pass rusher and a run stopper, and sets a tone that any top-tier defense needs. Yet despite all that, there's still no indication that Greer is working on an extension. You let a guy like this get close to free agency again, and you risk either losing him or paying double what you would have if you locked him down now. We've seen this before, an unwillingness to act until it's too late. That's what happened with Wilkins, and now we're staring down the same scenario with Sealer. The front office keeps playing financial chicken with foundational players, and the roster keeps losing its edge. And let's be clear, players notice this stuff. When the locker room sees a guy like Sealer put in the work, produce at a high level, and still not get rewarded, that sends a message. And it's not a good one. It tells everyone, you can give everything to this team and still get left hanging. That kind of atmosphere doesn't build champions. It builds resentment. Now, here's something else we're watching closely: participation versus presence. With the new CBA, players can show up and not practice. That little loophole could be the quiet protest we see next week. Ramsey might walk in, wave to the coaches, and sit on a bench the whole time. Same with Sealer. If that happens, we know exactly what's going on, and the fans won't be fooled. And don't forget about Jonnu Smith. His situation's another storm cloud on the horizon. We all know he wants more money, especially after the on-again, off-again trade chatter with Pittsburgh. Will he show up? Will he practice? Or will we see yet another potential contributor start to drift away because of Greer's lack of foresight? Meanwhile, around the league, other teams are locking up their guys, rewarding loyalty and performance. But in Miami, it's the same story. Big promises, small follow-through. So here we are, heading into what should be a routine mini-camp, and instead, it feels like a litmus test for the future of the franchise. Will this team rally, resolve its issues, and move forward as a contender? Or will the cracks deepen, and the whole structure start to collapse before the real games even begin? That's why I'm watching every single name on that attendance list next week. Because it's not just about who's there, it's about who's really there for this team. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any updates. I'll be tracking every bit of drama, every no-show, every hint of tension as we gear up for training camp. Hit that like button if you're tired of Greer's excuses and ready to see real accountability in Miami. And stick around, there's a video right here on the screen with a deep dive into our offseason moves and what they really mean. Tap in, and I'll see you there.